Episode 1 of In Search of Gods introduces us to a world filled with ancient clans, divine beasts, and political tension, while also setting up the journey of a young boy whose fate may be far greater than he realizes. Right from the beginning, this episode makes it clear that this is not just a fantasy story about gods and monsters, but also a story about destiny, war, and the rise of an unlikely hero. The episode opens with chaos in the waters of Mirage City, where a terrifying dragon-like beast has been causing destruction and slaughtering many people. Because of this, the leaders of Mirage City are already on edge and preparing for what they believe could be another attack. At first, they assume this monster is the feared Rending Cloud Mad Dragon, and they make it clear that if the beast dares to show itself again, they will kill it no matter what. However, things quickly take an unexpected turn when they realize that this creature is not the Rending Cloud Mad Dragon at all. Instead, it is revealed to be the blue-winged sea dragon beast, one of the sacred beasts of the water tribe, and also one of the 10 great divine beasts of the great wilderness. This changes everything immediately, because this is no ordinary monster. It is a sacred and symbolic creature, and harming it could create massive political consequences. Even so, the confrontation escalates and the beast is killed. And although this may look like a victory on the surface, it actually creates a much bigger problem. One of the elders realizes that the water tribe may have deliberately sacrificed the beast as an excuse to start a war against Mirage City. This means the attack was not just about destruction, but possibly part of a much larger political scheme. That realization becomes even more dangerous because the one person powerful enough to stop all of this, the divine emperor Shenong, has been missing for a very long time. With no ruler to keep balance among the clans, the world is slowly beginning to fall into disorder again. And as dark clouds begin to gather in the sky, the episode strongly hints that this is only the beginning of much greater trouble. After that intense opening, the story shifts into a much broader explanation of the world itself. We learn that the Great Wilderness is made up of 5 clans and 480 cities, and for hundreds of years, these groups fought endlessly with each other, bringing suffering and chaos to the world. Then, everything changed when a man named Shenong appeared. Using the power of the 5 virtues, he conquered the lands, united the people, and was eventually crowned the Son of Heaven, becoming the legendary Divine Emperor. Under his rule, the world entered an era of peace and stability, and for a time, all under heaven was loyal to him. But that peace did not last forever. 50 years later, Shenong left the Divine Emperor's city, and ever since then, his whereabouts have remained a complete mystery. For over 100 years, no one has known where he went, and because of that, the balance he once maintained has started to weaken. And that mystery leads us to one of the most important moments in the episode. Far away in the Nanji Mountains, we finally meet Shenong himself. Instead of appearing like some unreachable god, he's shown in a surprisingly peaceful and reflective moment, admiring the blooming jade begonias and quietly thinking about the passage of time. It's a calm and beautiful scene, but it also feels heavy, because you can tell that Shenong already understands that his time is running out. It is here that we are introduced to the real main character of the story, Tuobaye. Tuobaye is a young wanderer who grew up wild and free in the mountains. He's energetic, reckless, a little funny, and clearly very different from the grand political figures we saw earlier in the episode. He isn't some polished hero or chosen prince. He's just a mountain boy trying to survive and live freely. At first, his meeting with Shenong happens in a very casual and even humorous way, but this encounter quickly becomes much more important than it seems. Shenong speaks with him kindly and asks about his name and where he comes from. Tuobaye proudly says that he grew up wild and that the Nanji Mountains are his home. He also says that one day he wants to become a wild hero, someone respected by everyone and known across the land. And honestly, that simple dream says a lot about his character. Tuobaye doesn't want wealth or power. He wants to become someone meaningful, someone strong enough to be remembered. That's when the episode reveals one of its biggest early surprises. When Shenong examines him, he realizes that Tuobaye possesses the 5 virtues, something so rare that only a handful of people in thousands of years have ever had all of them. At that moment, Shenong immediately understands that this boy is not ordinary at all. In other words, fate has just quietly stepped onto the stage. Still, instead of dumping all of that importance on him immediately, the episode lets their relationship develop naturally. Shenong gives Tuobaye a simple task and asks him to retrieve a sword from a dangerous pool below a cliff. This might seem like a small test at first, but it actually serves multiple purposes. It allows Tuobaye to prove his courage, and it also gives the audience a chance to see his instincts, kindness, and determination in action. While attempting this task, Tuobaye runs into danger involving a strange creature and a sacred deer, and the sequence gives the episode a bit more fantasy adventure energy. He struggles, makes mistakes, and clearly isn't some overpowered hero yet. But what stands out most is that he still keeps trying. He may not have martial skill or experience, but he has heart. And that is exactly what Shenong sees in him. When Tuobaye eventually returns, he apologizes because the sword was damaged. But Shenong doesn't blame him. Instead, he reveals something heartbreaking. He explains that after spending his life tasting hundreds of herbs and absorbing toxins, his body has finally reached its limit. The poisons within him are now taking over, and he will soon turn to stone. This is the moment where the episode becomes surprisingly emotional. Because now we understand that this old man is not just some wise traveler. He is the missing divine emperor, and he is dying. Even knowing this, Shenong remains calm and accepting. He speaks about death with wisdom and peace, almost as if he has already made peace with the end of his life. But before he dies, there is one final thing he must do. He entrusts Tuobaye with a mission that is far bigger than anything the boy could have imagined. Shenong gives him a divine wood token containing a blood message and tells him to take it to Mount Yuping. There, he must find the Green Emperor and tell him to come to Mirage City within 7 days to prevent war. This is an enormous responsibility, especially for a boy who was just dreaming of becoming a wild hero moments earlier. And naturally, Tuobaye is shocked. He can hardly believe that someone would trust him with something so important. But Shenong's answer is one of the strongest moments in the episode. He tells Tuobaye that being a hero is not about birth, power, or martial skill. If a person has righteousness in their heart, then they are already a true hero. That line basically defines the entire heart of this episode, because this story is not just about gods, emperors, and clans. It is also about what makes a person truly worthy. Before passing on, Shenong gives Tuobaye several priceless gifts. He leaves behind 3 books, including the Classic of the Great Wilderness, which records mountains, cities, beasts, and rare plants across the land. These books are not just useful tools, but symbols of knowledge and exploration, almost like he is handing the world itself over to the next generation. He also gives him Shenong pills, warning him not to use them too often because of how powerful they are. And then, in one final deeply personal request, he asks Tuobaye to return the Wufeng sword to a fairy named Kongsang if he ever meets her. This moment feels especially emotional because it hints that even someone as legendary as Shenong had regrets, unfinished feelings, and personal memories he carried with him to the end. As his final moments approach, he asks Tuobaye to pick a branch of jade begonia for him, and the scene closes in a quiet, poetic, and melancholic way. It's honestly one of the best parts of the episode, because instead of making the death of a legendary emperor loud and dramatic, the episode makes it feel peaceful, human, and unforgettable. After that, Tuobaye fully accepts the mission and vows that he will not fail. This marks the true beginning of his journey. He may still be inexperienced, but now he carries the hopes of a dying emperor and the future of an entire city on his shoulders. The episode then cuts back to the political side of the story, where we see the Dark Water God Palace. There, members of the Water Tribe confirm that they still have no information on Shenong's whereabouts. Since he cannot be found, they assume that no one will interfere with their plans. They also begin monitoring the Green Emperor, making it clear that Mirage City is now trapped in the middle of a much larger conflict. By the end of the episode, the message is clear. The world is on the edge of war, divine powers are moving in the shadows, and Tuobaye has unknowingly stepped into the center of it all. Overall, episode 1 of In Search of Gods does a really good job of balancing fantasy world building, political tension, and emotional storytelling. It introduces a huge world full of clans, sacred beasts, and ancient rulers. But at the same time, it keeps the story grounded through Tuobaye, who feels like a very human and relatable protagonist. Instead of throwing us straight into nonstop action, the episode takes its time to build mystery and emotional weight. And because of that, the journey ahead already feels important. So, yeah, this was a very strong first episode. It sets up the world, the stakes, the hero, and the coming conflict in a way that feels both grand and personal at the same time. And honestly, if the story keeps building from here, In Search of Gods could turn into a really interesting fantasy adventure.